I'm not going to tell you what that is. Do you want to check? If they say, yeah, I want to check on it, something, yeah, tell them about those elements. Yeah, it's fine, but you didn't check. You just saw a bag of coins. Looked kind of cool. You took it. Didn't ask who it was from. Didn't ask why it was there. So finally on the show, Alex, we're going to do a crit think, which we have not done in a little bit. It's about time to get back on our game. So, you ready to do some crit thinking?
No.
Okay,
we're gonna
great.
pretend.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. So, also, when I was going through some of the TTRPG stuff online, I did see a really interesting question that I wanted to address, which is, what happens when your players end up making boring characters?
You murder them all.
Yeah, just...
I don't mean the characters, I mean the players.
Just the players. This is the Wet Rag gang that we've made. That's what their name is. And we're just gonna go into it. So, okay, scenario happens. You get your game crew together. We're gonna start a cool, exciting campaign, guys. It's gonna be pretty amazing. There's gonna be twists and turns, and unexpected things happen, and amazing dark backstories. You're gonna love it. And your players come in, and they're like, okay, my character, his name is Bob, and he sticks things with a sword, and he had a good relationship with his parents.
Great.
And he's a dude. He's a dude, you know?
Great.
He's a guy.
Human dude. Fighter, I assume?
Yeah, definitely a fighter. Gotta have a fighter.
Right parents, part of the City Watch?
Yeah, part of the City Watch, and then you get to the next person, and they're like, yeah, my character's name is Shauna, and she was working as a bartender for a while. And, she sings occasionally.
So I'm pretty sure we've all encountered a boring or bland character before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can think of Alistair from
Dragon Age.
Yeah, kind of a meathead.
Even though he was apparently really important, if I remember correctly, he was kind of royalty or something.
Kind of boring, though. Apparently, Aloy from Zero Dawn.
I might contest that, but okay.
I was just going by what Yahtzee said, so...
Yeah, well, I understand. I mean...
Our second plug of zero punctuation.
Hey, that's always good. Then there's actually 2 punctuations. We've done it twice. I think that it's important to understand when I'm conceptualizing boring characters, I'm not really talking about the Mary Sue.
Okay.
Because the Mary Sue is a different thing altogether about characters that really just don't have any flaws. They're kind of perfect in every way. And despite what a lot of people would like to say, most of your favorite characters from a lot of media probably fell into this category. I'm sorry, but it's kind of true. Anyway, I think what we're talking about with boring characters are more characters that don't really have a lot going on in terms of who they are. They don't have, like, rich backstories or character designs. They're not interesting. They're very bland or generic.
I don't think you have to have a rich backstory to not be boring. I think you just have to have some thought of your character, and they have to have some stuff going on, whether it's flaws or tics or things that make them interesting. I had a player play a paladin once, which was, hey, we're in a city. Is there anyone that needs help? I would like to help the downtrodden and the hopeless, and I would like to be a Mary Sue, and I would like to be lawful stupid, and I'm here to be a protector of the good. I am a good paladin. I do good things for the good people. And I was like, wow, this character is boring.
Yeah, because there's not a lot that you can play off of with that. Like, what happens if you have that paladin end up with an actual moral quandary? Like, what happens if that paladin, who's like, I'm here to do the good thing, ends up in a scenario similar to what they had with, like, Knights of the Old Republic? Because there are several times, even, especially with, like, KOTOR 2, when they did Sith Lords, where they try to make it very clear that what you think of as a good action might have unintended consequences. So there's that thing that happens when you get on Nar Shaddaa in KOTOR 2, where you're approached by this character who's like, please, I need money I need to feed myself or my family, and I need the money. So you, thinking that you're doing the good positive thing, would be like, here are credits, sir. You can now afford the food. And so you do that. And then Kreia comes into your ear and is kind of like going, are you sure that that was the right thing to do? And you're kind of like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, you think that you just helped him out, but what you really just did is made him a target. And you see over on the other side of things where the guy that you just gave credits to gets beaten up and stabbed by a bunch of ruffians who then take the money because they saw that you gave them money. And you've basically just gotten the dude killed by trying to help you out. And the idea of that is, what happens when we get into the I'm a good, lawful, cool paladin that's always going to do the righteous thing? What happens when you present them with a scenario like that?
I think that's great.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's one of the ways you actually deal with boring characters, by putting them in a situation that is not black and white, where they can't just do the good thing or the evil thing. Because you have the other side too, where you have characters that just always want to do the terrible thing. And like, I just want to be bad. Or you have the bards that are like, I'm just always going to be horny, or whatever it is. And put them into scenarios where they can't just make the simple choice of doing this thing or that thing and getting your good boy points or your bad boy points. Because I think actually in that scenario, even if you gave the money to the guy, I don't think you actually get light side or dark side points, or it's very, very light, not nearly as much as you thought it was going to be. And there's a handful of scenarios in those games, maybe because it's BioWare and they explore that a little bit more. Even in the Mass Effect franchise, where they don't have like good and bad options, but they have like
they got the Paragons, yeah.
They got the Paragons and the Renegades, and the Renegades are harsh, but they don't always make it out to be a bad thing. Just that you're going to address it outside of what the, guys in charge would like you to do. Getting back on track, dealing with boring characters. I guess my first thought is, put them in scenarios and situations where they have to critically think themselves about how their characters are going to address it. And it can't be an easy, simple choice. They have to be able to think that through. What else could they do? What else could they do?
Just kidding.
Just kill off their characters.
Just kill them off,
Kill off the characters entirely.
Yeah, just murder. Kill off the players entirely. No, we already remember that. Don't commit murder.
You started with that.
Good. Okay. Sorry, I was going back to it. Throw them for a curveball. Okay. You can throw characters for a curveball. You can bring someone in from their past if you wanted to, for instance.
Okay.
Maybe someone they don't remember but knows them. Maybe they have a couple characters they said they knew, or maybe you just want to bring someone in that they actually don't remember. And that character knows something about their past. They say something vague, like, hey, remember that time that we did this one thing? Remember that time with the bank? And then have the player fill in what happens.
Yeah.
Or maybe that run-in with the town guard.
Yeah.
And it's like, what did happen with the town guard?
Yeah.
You're like, the player might be like, I don't know. This I've never happened. This person remembers you had a thing, and they don't have a fleshed out backstory.
That's true. You didn't bother to flesh that out at all, so we can actually expand that. And I don't mind, like you were mentioning, the idea that players don't necessarily have those fleshed out backstories, because that just allows you to fill in the gaps later, or to, allow some space in there.
Yeah, and having them be the ones that fill in what this thing that happened was. Mm-hmm. It means they get to choose what it was. It can still be boring if they want it to be boring, but It gives them a chance to do something interesting. Maybe it's just a social interaction. Oh yeah, I was standing in line with you at the bank that one time and we talked about seagulls.
Right.
Wow, riveting stuff. Your character is still boring. But perhaps they'll come up with something interesting. Oh yeah, we robbed that bank. Maybe it's a rogue. Yeah, remember that bank heist? That was fucking lit.
Yeah. So in that scenario, though, we have to make sure that we're leaving something fairly open-ended so that the character fills in the blanks. Even though you set that up, I mean, it's still possible that your, players might say something to the effect of, no, I swear, I didn't do anything at the bank.
That's fine, too.
What you still have is you have presented them with a scenario that somebody has determined that they swear that it was you at the bank. So now you could have a doppelganger situation. You could have any kind of interesting thread that might not involve that character at all, but circumstances outside of the character that they then have to address anyway. Because, yeah, okay, I didn't have anything to do with the bank, but now, mistaken identity, people think that I did. People think I was there, and the town guard's after me, maybe. And now I have to figure out how to clear my name. But in order to do that, they have to flesh out their backstory to explain why they weren't there.
Yeah.
They have to prove that they weren't there and where they were. So, again, they're going to have to add layers to the character to get out of the situation that you have presented to them. And they can help with that. You can interact with them on that, but it does have to get addressed in some way. Present them with interesting scenarios, difficult choices. You could kill off the players, apparently. That's one we keep coming back to. Those are possibilities. Here's another one that's always fun. Cursed item, or an enchanted item that just happens upon their possession, or that they didn't realize was cursed. Imagine if you have characters, maybe you have just a stereotypical rogue. Okay, the stereotypical rogue is, I steal things. Mm-hmm. You know, that the rogue that you got, very boring rogue, I steal things all the time. Okay, cool. So they go into a room. There's a bunch of things in the room. Oh, what kind of things? Oh, well, you know, there's some daggers and whatever. And then just see what they want to pick up.
Yeah.
See if they check on it. If they do any tests on it. They probably won't. Because, again, boring characters probably don't think this stuff through. They're going to just pick up random items. Oh, there's a bag. It looks like a bag full of coins or something. Oh, I'm totally taking that. Probably not going to do any checks. Not going to do any... Yeah, they're not going to do investigation rolls on the bag. And they pick it up. And so now they, by their own accord, have picked up this bag of coins. They've chosen that action. They did not check on anything. They probably didn't notice the royal seal on that bag.
Oh, probably not.
That says that this indeed is owned by a king, for instance, and you have now robbed the royalty. They will probably want to come after you on that, because you didn't check on that anyway. But now, you have indeed stolen, but you have stolen something that was in this random warehouse that was actually belonging to a king, and why was it there? And what was the deal behind that? Was that a secret payment? Was there a note in that bag when they start looking at this? Like, that makes it sound like maybe this is hush money of some kind. And does that mean that we're going to have to get personally involved with the affairs of royalty and, like, the aristocracy? Is this perhaps a bag of coins that came from another country? Or another nation? Or people that we don't normally associate with the kingdom that we're in? We haven't even presented a scenario to the character. The character has inadvertently gotten themselves into a mess that they then have to figure out how they're going to get themselves out of. We haven't actually done anything to... If they say, I don't like the idea of scenarios being forced on me, it's like, I didn't force that scenario. You chose all the actions that led to this point right here and right now. And so now the character has to realize by their own actions how they're going to get out of those actions, and it's gonna have to be, in this scenario, something that's outside of the rogue saying, I like stealing stuff. Well, now we're past that. Now you gotta figure out how you're gonna rectify this. Yeah. What you're gonna do to get out of this scenario, and simply stealing stuff is not going to do it. It's not gonna cut it. That would be my next thought, is just the very idea of presenting them with, like, a bait that they're gonna want to take that has unintended consequences.
As long as your players don't get mad about it.
Well, but I keep thinking that it's harder for players to get angry about something if they, by their own actions, without really studying something, have taken it on. Like, if they say, I steal this bag of coins, well, you said it. I'm not going to tell you what that is. Do you want to check? If they say, yeah, I want to check on it, something, yeah, tell them about those elements. Yeah, it's fine, but You didn't check, you just saw a bag of coins, looked kind of cool, you took it. Didn't ask who it was from. Didn't ask why it was there. So we've got that. Again, always going back to the idea that you could just kill off the players. Yeah, that's
my favorite thing to do, apparently.
You love to do that. Sometimes there are boars or elementals that come into the play. Maybe there's a dungeon or a crypt. All sorts of fun things that you can do. I'll ask you a question, though. If we are not talking about in-game, how could we actually address it to the players themselves? Work with them directly to try and flesh out those characters before the game even starts.
I think asking questions helps
Yes.
a lot. You can be like, all right, cool. Do you have anyone you're related to? Is there anything you did in your childhood maybe that was illegal or illicit? Maybe someone you helped. Asking pointed questions that require, like, answers.
Yes.
Like, obviously, depending on their character type and what they want to go with, you can ask different questions or be like, hey, give me an example of a time that you were in trouble. You know, something like that that's open-ended but also makes them come up with something that gives them a little bit of character that you can maybe lean on later.
If you have scenarios, too, where you choose a background or anything like that, or a lineage, anything, you can lean on that, too, and try to flesh it out based on those options that they've done for their character design. Some of those are not just mechanical, but they can also be story-driven. And, you know, sometimes I think you will get players that specifically just state, hey, I don't really know what I want my character to be. That's why I made him generic. Maybe I just wanted to play a fighter. Maybe I just wanted to be a magic user, and I didn't really think about why my character did and everything. My thought there is, leave that space open and say, well, I guess we'll find out. We'll figure it out when we're playing. So just start thinking when we get into scenarios how you want to address that, how you want to go about that, and what you think your character is going to do. It might be different than you. That's kind of the whole thing about role-playing. That it's going to be a little bit trying to explore the space once you actually get into it. And if the players understand that that's what you're going to do, I think that that's actually very useful, especially for new players that don't understand the overall social mechanics of the tabletop gaming. We've probably both played with some people that have maybe not a lot of experience with tabletop gaming, but also maybe they're trying out a new system for the first time, or they're new to it, and they create fairly simplistic characters because they don't want to get too heady into it, which totally understand, been there myself, I get it. But inside of that, there's a lot of opportunities to start exploring deeper levels and, like an onion of sorts, peeling back the layers in Shrek-like fashion to get to the inner core of who your character is. And if they understand that that's possible and they open themselves up to that idea, you might end up with a much richer character by the end of the game. There is also one other possibility that I'd like to throw out there, which is that sometimes really boring characters can also be really funny. Sometimes,
once in a while.
Sometimes a boring character could be really funny. I had an idea for a character that I was going to literally just call Jean Narek, who was just a human fighter who joined the guard and hits things with a sword, and every line out of his mouth was going to purposefully be the most bland, pointless thing he could possibly say. And I just thought, kind of hilarious if you do it intentionally.
I would say that would get boring real fast, but I think that's the point.
That is exactly the point. Sometimes there is something so fun inside of that scenario. I had this idea that his tragic backstory was that he was really good at hitting things with a sword, and the town guards came by and said, hey, it looks like you're really good at hitting things with a sword. Yeah. Would you like a job where you can hit things with a sword? Yeah. Okay, I got one for you. And he joins the town guard. It's his tragic backstory. He really thinks it's very tragic. Yeah, that he liked hitting things with a sword. Final thoughts on our crit thing. Let's wrap this thing up. In all seriousness, past all of this, how do you want to address it with the players themselves?
Communication!
Session 0.
Session Zero, or communication, asking questions, having them answer questions, asking tough questions.
Something that I think might help for new players when they're trying to do role-playing, at least I find that this was very useful. Okay, you're a fighter. Okay, you're a rogue. Anything like that. Okay, great. But why? Just the very basic question, like, how'd that happen? You didn't just one day, like, decide, hey, this is what I'm doing. There was a process that you went down that led to your career, whether it be your career in thievery, or your career singing songs in taverns, or picking up spell books.
Yeah, but then you have to have people justify why they're a thing. And sometimes they just want to be a thing. I think it's easier to have them pick something else that they're more, like, is more substantial. Oh, so why are you a sorcerer? And you're like, well, when a mom and a dad who both have latent magic powers come together...
Right. Is that sort of like the conversations we've had before about latent abilities versus career choices?
Sorcerers are born sorcerers, typically.
Well, like, yeah, and barbarians come from, like, actual clans, like, usually, where they're barbarians, and druids have natural connections to the land. It's a little bit different than if you're, like, a fighter or a rogue or, anything like that, where you've chosen a profession specifically. Yeah, I mean, communication with your players, it's going to be important. It's okay if they want to play a boring character. I just think that it's, in the end, not very interesting for you who's running the game. It's probably not going to be very interesting for the other players, but more importantly, I think at the end of the day, it's not really going to be all that interesting for the player themselves. I think they're going to get bored of the game.
I think you should encourage growth. Doesn't matter if they start out boring, they can always become interesting.
Exactly. From a seed comes a plant. That's how you start the druid's story.
From a plant becomes a tree, and from a tree becomes
lumber.
All those spears.
All the spears that can then go into the hands of the peasants to create that railgun.
Yes.
Perfect.
Episode 1 plug.
2. Episode 2. There's 2.
Episode 2 plug.
We usually pass a question along at the end of Crit Thinks, and what are we going to do for this Crit Think question to pass along to everybody else?
How do you cure your player's boredom?
How do you cure your player's boredom? Let's go with that. I'm curious about that myself. So, answers down below, or you can leave us a voice clip if you are over on Anchor.